Welcome to Shrink Wrap Hawaii. I am so excited because today I have a very special guest, Cynthia White, the Executive Director of Kids Hurt Too Hawaii. Welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you very much. Now, Cynthia is a little bit of a tongue twister, isn't it?
So, I first heard about your organization because I have a very close personal friend who's 10 years old who suffered a loss of a parent, and through a friend of a friend we heard about what you do, and it's been pretty amazing for him. Please tell the rest of the world about Kids Hurt Too.
Okay, well, Kids Hurt Too has been in Hawaii for 15 years. We started as an all-volunteer organization, and our main focus is to provide therapeutic services to grieving and traumatized children. So that's children impacted by death of a parent, divorce because of domestic violence, incarceration, abandonment, and children who are impacted by the foster care system because of abuse or neglect. And so our mission is to assist those children in healing from those experiences and turning that pain into a positive strength. Because a lot of times people don't realize that it takes a lot of strength to cope with those kinds of tragedies, and especially for children. And it's amazing to see what happens to a child when they realize that this is a strength for them.
It's such a devastating thing for a child to lose a parent. Most people would be, I would be kind of speechless at first. What do you say to a kid? How did you choose to get involved with something like this?
Well, I've been doing this for 34 years. Primarily, I started working with dying children through hospice.
What made you decide to do that?
Well, let's go back.
Yeah.
Well, I myself am a victim of parent loss and abuse and neglect, and was in the foster care system because of domestic violence, and that was abuse in the foster care system. And I was also separated from 5 siblings.
Oh, wow.
And so I lost everyone. I was 6 years old, and I lost everyone. But at that time, like maybe the day before, I had this amazing experience of God, and God said, everything that happens is right. And then I lost everyone, and my whole life changed, and I kept thinking, it must be something right about this, and and all through growing up, bad things happening, I would think, there must be something right about this. And of course, in adolescence, I'd be like, this isn't right. There's nothing right about this, and then in college, studying counseling and philosophy and religion, then I began to understand that it was a message of unconditional love. And I also felt very connected to people who had lost everything, which was dying people. They were losing everything. And they were left alone. This was back in the 80s, early 80s, and dying people were alone. Nobody was there for them. They were hidden in the end of a hall in a hospital. And I thought, this is wrong. There should be somebody with them. Nobody should die alone. And so my goal was to be a healing presence, a loving presence in their life, and that in those last days, so they didn't have to die alone. And I did that for 10 years, and I was executive director of a hospice, local hospice.
This was where?
In Kentucky.
Uh-huh.
And I was also the first hospice in the nation to start a group for children who had a parent die or a parent who was dying, and one of the first 3 hospices in the nation to become licensed and Medicare certified. I was very motivated because I really believed in this. But after Medicare certification happened, then to work with families, you had to have a degree in social work. I had a degree in counseling, so I couldn't get a job except as executive director.
So you started your own.
And I wanted to be, well, before that, I was executive director, but I did everything except nursing, a small rural hospice. And after that, I could only be executive director, and I couldn't work with the families. So I started working with grieving children, and I was a training director actually at the Dougie Center, which is the National Center for Grieving Children and Families in Portland, Oregon. And my job was to work directly with children who'd lost somebody through death. And we did peer groups there, and then to document the model and the outcome and the impact, and then train people all over the nation, which then led to also training internationally. So I started working by training people in Japan. That was back in 1995.
So you brought up Japan. I know that you've done a tremendous amount of things with the victims of the tsunami.
Yes, when the tsunami happened, I mean, Kids Heard Too Hawaii is a premium resource for children impacted by grief and trauma. And we're so close to Japan. And I'd already worked there back in 95, 96, 97, 98. In 99, I spent a whole year there researching children's grief as a visiting professor. And, so I already had a network and people trained, and then resources that we could bring to bear in serving the children and families in the tsunami areas. So when that happened, we looked at, how can we help? Because I didn't want to just go in and be a one-time, think that coming in one time was going to help. I wanted to go in and provide something that was empowering, and information is empowering. And people said, don't go. People won't talk. And I said, well, we're not going to ask them to talk. We're going to give them information so they understand the outcomes of trauma and how that impacts people and what to expect, and some tools for managing that, like we do with children, and how to help the children. And so we went, and most of the funding for the first 3 years came from Hawaii. We were sponsored by Dan Keppel, who was the president at the time of Acura of Honolulu. He created a fundraiser called Eye on Japan.
Wow.
And raised the money for us to go and work in Tohoku. We stayed in people's homes. We traveled very inexpensively, and we've been in over 18 cities in the Tohoku area. Then we got picked up by Asahi Shimbun Social Welfare Organization, and they sponsored us for 2 more years. And what we're doing is basically helping them set up programs like the one we do here in Hawaii that are all volunteer. I mean, our program is primarily supported by volunteers, and we want these local communities who have lost so much to be able to provide some kind of supports for the children. And it's working out very well. We've reached over 800 children and 2,000 adults trained in this model. And
you've trained 2,000 adults?
In Japan.
So how do you
alone.
overcome the language problem?
Well, I have interpreters and translators. Actually, our program director, Hiro Ito, who is a social worker also and a specialist as well. He has like 20 years experience.
Here in Hawaii?
Here in Hawaii, with Kids Heard Too Hawaii. He's also a Japanese national, so he does a lot of translating as well.
So he grew up in Japan?
Yes, in the orphanage. So
my goodness.
he was an orphan from age 2.
I was blown away when you said you were a visiting professor. You at a university there?
Yes. Yeah.
So
in Japan.
Did you do it with a translator?
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I had a wonderful translator. Very spiritual man, very compassionate man. He was really awesome. He did a great job. He died last year.
So I'm curious, when you organize a peer group of children, what does that look like?
Well, children, we have loss-specific groups. So we have a group for children in foster care, and then we have groups for children who are separated because of divorce, domestic violence, or incarceration. And then we have 2 groups for children who've had parents through death. That's our biggest demand. And our demand really exceeds our capacity. We could do more. We could have more groups if we had more funding, and hopefully we can appeal to people to support the organization through your program. Sorry.
All right, you mentioned there's going to be a training
There's
coming
going to
up?
be a training. We do rely on volunteers. So each group is maximum 15 children.
Mm-hmm.
And then our ratio is 1 adult to every 3 children. So 5, we try to do more than that, so 1 to 2 if we can. So each group will be like 15 children and 7 or 8 volunteer facilitators. And then we have our professional supervisor who kind of is helping different places. We have a group for children, we have a group for teens, and a group for their caregivers or their parents. They meet in separate areas. We actually have a teen center, a parent room, and a children's space, a program with playrooms. And so they start out in an opening circle where they're invited to share their name and their loss and why they're there. So if it's because I'm in foster care, then they can say that. We don't make them talk. We have an I-pass rule. Talking is not the only way that children communicate their pain and suffering. As a matter of fact, their primary way of communicating is behavior. They show you how they feel. They show you what's inside of them, which gets them in trouble, unfortunately, when what they're showing you is pain. I get in trouble with that, and that makes it harder. But with us,
like they go to school and they get into a fight.
Exactly,
Yeah.
or they space out, can't concentrate on, they get accused of, not paying attention or, being lazy because they're not doing the work. But actually, their brains are functioning in a very different way, and people don't understand that. So we do. So our program is set up for that. We have talk story time. We want to give the children who need to talk the opportunity if they want to tell us their story. And the younger ones usually talk the most.
Oh, that's interesting.
You didn't expect that, did you?
No, I did not.
You get up there in the adolescent age and then it's a little tougher.
Yeah.
So once, we had that time, there's a lot of anxiety around those issues. Those are intense issues. So when that happens, we want to give them free time to release that anxiety in a positive way. So we have playrooms. We have games, and we have cars and trucks and dolls and house play and train set. We have just a lot of toys. And then we have a very special room called the Volcano Room. And in there you can erupt.
What does that look like?
It's full of giant bears, and the walls are padded with about 8 inches of foam. And you can literally erupt. You can flip, you can punch the walls, you can punch a bear. We have a 6-foot-tall wrestling doll who you can punch, but you can't hurt yourself or you can't hurt another child. So we have that's what the volunteer's role is to not only facilitate their expressions if they want to express themselves, but also to make sure that everybody is safe, because healing can only happen in a safe environment. Children don't feel safe. They're not going to do what they need to do to heal those very deep pains that are shaping who they are. And so by turning it into something that is normal, because everybody has the same loss in their peer group, by realizing that they have the same issues as other kids, by seeing that they're not alone, and by being able to express themselves freely without getting in trouble, but also know that that's going to be they're going to be kept safe, and they're going to be expected to be safe. It just frees them up. You wouldn't believe the amazing things you see. Light goes on in their eyes. And to me, I'll do this forever if I can just see that spark one time, and you don't even know. Sometimes it's just getting a smile back on their face. It took us, for one child, 1 whole year before we saw the smile come back on his face.
Wow.
So it's that time of play that connects them with each other, that bonds them to each other, and that freely, gives them that freedom to talk and share their pain without talking about the pain. It's symbolic.
It must be amazing just to witness that happening.
It's like the most amazing. It's like magic. It's like when you see all the Disney stuff that's happening. That's where it is. That's it's. it is so magical and so amazing that I'm always like, how do we study this? You know, how do we quantify this? Because people want to know. And
How do you, yeah, people. We're going to come right back. We have to take a short break, and I'll be right back with Cynthia White from Kids Hurt Too. Don't touch your mouse!
Hello, I'm Crystal from Quack Talk. I've got a new show here. You've got to tune in, check out my topics on sensitive, provocative female issues. So, Tuesday morning,
They changed the
there's going to be
length of
fun
the show to half an hour.
and
oh, good.
dangerous.
Yeah.
We better hustle.
Yes.
You
Hello,
go
so
back
I'm
to the
Patrick
training
Bratton.
because
Please
I
join
got-
me for Global Connections every Thursday at 1 p.m. where we talk with a variety of guests about various international issues, historical issues, both here in Hawaii and abroad, range from security, human rights, ethics, and all sorts of other things. So please join me. I look forward to talking with you and seeing some of my guests.
Aloha! I'm Chantal Seville, the host of the Savvy Chick Show, which you can watch every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on thinktechhawaii.com. On the Savvy Chick Show, we are all about inspiring and empowering women and girls to be the best they can be by having amazing guests from all around the world. So we hope you'll join us every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Aloha!
Welcome back to Shrink Wrap with my guest, Cynthia White of Kids Hurt Too. Now, before I forget, Cynthia, because I tend to forget everything, you said that there's a training for volunteers
Thank you.
that that's coming up soon.
Yes, August. It's 2 weekends, August 13th, 14th, 20th, 21st. Saturdays, those are 2 Saturday Sundays. The training is kind of the toughest hurdle,
Uh-huh.
you know, and we do charge for that. It's $125
For a total for the whole 2
for
weekends.
the whole 2 weeks if you become a volunteer. If you don't become a volunteer, it's $550. Because
Right, because you wasted your time.
well, it's a very, highly professional training. You learn state-of-the-art theory about grief and trauma. You learn about how to work on your own issues of grief and trauma, which we all have. We're all, we're in this life. None of us get out of it.
What are some of those issues?
Well, loss, for example. Now, when I say loss, I don't mean death, because that's one of them. But there are other losses in life. There are other things that have happened in our lives that affect who we are, change who we are, and the directions in our lives. Those are losses, and we grieve those losses. And to understand that and how that grief process is part of shaping you, because grief is a natural process.
Right.
And grief is how we change. Trauma, on the other hand, is a little different. It is very different. It changes how your brain functions. Grief does too, but not in the same way as trauma. Trauma affects how your brain functions in a very damaging way. So if you don't get treatment for that, if you don't get some kind of services to recover your brain, and if you will, then those effects can last a lifetime and become a pattern in your personality, and then you get identified with that, when actually you're doing that because of what happened in the traumatic situation, or you become high anxiety person, hypervigilant person. So we're teaching them about this, but also giving them a chance to experience it and how to work on that in their own life. So we don't ask children to work on their grief and trauma if we're not willing to do it for ourselves.
So if somebody wanted to do this, how would they find you to sign up?
We have a website, and we also have a Facebook, and they can also call our office. And our phone number is very easy to remember, 808-LIL-LOVE.
808 Little Love?
Yeah, Lil Love, LILLOVE.
Ah, Little Love.
Little Love. If you want
Sounds
a little
kinda
love.
Southern.
Yeah, well, guess what?
The phone number is Little Love, and what's the
Which
website?
Is, website's kidshurt2.org, www.kidshurt2.org.
That's the national site?
No, that's our local site. We're the only Kids Hurt 2 program in the nation. Every other program has their own name.
Oh.
Yeah, we're the only one called Kids Hurt 2. And by the way, our name was chosen by the children.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's how we got our
So
name.
you're saying this is the only program with this name in the country. But there are other programs that are affiliated?
There are over 1,000 programs in the U.S. that use the model that we use. And
is there a name for that?
The model is the Dougie Center model, which is where I was training director for 7 years prior to moving to Hawaii.
That's in Portland?
That's in Portland, Oregon. That's the national center. So the model is what we use. Also, we're the only program in the nation that applies the model in the way that we do. And we're the only one that works with foster children and therapeutic peer support groups. There are very few, maybe a handful, that also work with children impacted by separation from a parent because of divorce, domestic violence. There aren't any for children of incarcerated. There are camps, but there aren't any therapeutic peer support groups for children with incarcerated parents. That's mostly one-on-one. But there are a lot more for children who've had a loss from death of a parent or family member.
So I'm a marriage and family therapist here in Hawaii. So if I'm working with a couple that is separated or divorced, you would work with their kids?
Yes.
So
yes.
That's the only qualification necessary, that their parents recently have gotten separated or divorced?
Yes. And just call. They just call. We're a free service.
Little love.
We survive on donations. And
I don't remember. Did you say the website? What is that?
www.kidshurt2.org.
Okay.
You can make donations through our website.
And then you can also find out how to register to become a volunteer.
Yes.
Can you actually do it online?
There is a online registration form.
Oh,
yeah.
Great.
So the training is our first hurdle. Like I said, it's a big time commitment. But after that, volunteering might be only 4 hours a month. That's the minimum that we do, and the groups are 4 hours. So that's an hour pre-meeting and an hour post-meeting for, each group that we do. So volunteers go through a pre-meeting to prepare themselves to focus on the needs of the children. So
each time you meet, there's
every
a
single
pre-meeting
time
and
we
a
meet,
post-meeting?
an hour pre-meeting. Then there's a post-meeting after it because it's very powerful work. It's very intense.
How long is the meeting itself?
The meeting itself is 2 hours. The post-meeting is for debriefing. The families come, the volunteers come at 5, the families come at 6, and they have a dinner. We do a potluck dinner. We used to provide dinner, but funding
Is this once
cuts.
a week or once a month?
It depends on the group. Some groups are once a month, and some groups are twice a month. We'd like to do more, but that's what we have capacity for. Then the group itself, then after our half-hour dinner, we go into our group, which is an hour and a half long. And the post-meeting is 1 hour for debriefing. So the whole commitment is 4 hours. We also have opportunities for volunteers who want to do other things, because we also do other kinds of therapeutic services. We have ukulele lessons, hula lessons, Japanese language lessons. We provide ton of outings, different kinds of activities.
All this is done by volunteers?
Yes. Wow. Surfing. We do Surf for the Soul. We have a whole series of we call them mentoring activities that are community-based. We partner with lots of different organizations. There's a lot going on in Hawaii. Yeah. We don't have to invent activities. We find out what they are, and then we get our families to participate. Because families in trauma, families going through loss, it's hard for them to focus on anything but themselves because they're so, drained from the emotional difficulties, and especially parents, who are trying to just get through the day. So we kind of become their social director in a way. We make sure the kids are engaged in the community, things going on in the community. We want to find out what inspires these children. What motivates them? We've had children get inspired and motivated by becoming part of the Lion Dance Association and being involved in lion dance. We do dragon boat races. We're the first only child-adult team at the dragon boat races.
Wow. So I have a question that I often ask people that are obviously very successful, and especially people who have overcome great adversity, and you're one of those people. You mentioned that you had a kind of religious experience.
And I'd never been to church prior to that.
Right, so that was like one instant, but in order to succeed, as you have done, and help thousands of other people as you have done, was there a person? Was there what kept you going? What keeps you so positive?
Well, I think that as a result of that experience, I developed a relationship with God. And then I became like, okay, God, because I knew it was God as a child talking to me and giving me that message. I don't know how I knew, but I just knew. When you're that age, you just know things.
So when you say God, do you have like a picture of a man up on a cloud?
There was no picture. It was a presence. It was invisible like the air we breathe, but undoubtedly God.
So do you have some sort of a regular practice? Because you said you're not affiliated with a church.
Right. Well, yes, I have a very regular practice, and it's called prayer and keeping that relationship with God. I studied religion in college. I wanted to know more, I was kind of like, and then of course in foster care, went to different churches, and that kind of, just that connection with God, that relationship, this has really been a strong support, a strong base for me, because it's tough, nonprofit work is tough, and I was a single parent as well.
Wow.
And
how many kids do you have?
just one.
How old is he or she?
She's 38.
Wow.
I know, and I have a granddaughter, just one. She's 12.
Is your daughter involved in similar work?
Actually, she is.
I've got a daughter involved in similar work,
She
too.
would have never tried to be involved in that, but she's very good. She does art. She's an art teacher with an alternative high school.
Here in Hawaii?
No, in Portland, Oregon. She's still in Portland.
Wow.
Yeah. So, a very therapeutic work, because they have a lot of issues that they're coming in with, and that's why they have to go to an alternative high school, drug and affected parents, and just so she's very good, and I'm like, oh, that sounds familiar. She'll be telling me about what she does. I'm like, oh, that sounds real familiar. But she's better than I ever was. I'm not artistic. She does a much better job.
So you said you were a single parent. Did your professional skills help you? Wait, you know what? They just told me we only have 15 seconds left now.
So I would say yes, helped me a lot. And I've been into meditation. I've been into just staying healthy, and then the work. When you see the outcomes of the work, then there's nothing better. There's nothing sweeter.
Okay, we're just about done. Don't forget the training, kidshurt2.org, and August 13th, 14th, 20th, 21st. Do it. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Whew, that went